In today's episode, if you want me to go to ER, I will. I must check for any place a person can hide during a fire drill? Okay. Let's see how that works out for you. Boss got mad at me for wasting time organizing. How I realized my job wastes more money than I make. So let's get started. If you want me to go to ER, I will. This happened nearly 11 years ago. I was a young kid working my first job at a grocery store as stock boy. This grocery store was part of one of the biggest grocery chains in the Netherlands, but it was in a small place. Common policy for this chain was to periodically switch their store managers throughout the region to uphold a standard across the chain. The managers would also get pointers as to what to focus on when taking over a new store. After working my job for just over a year, the time came for a new store manager. The new guy was former manager of one of the stores in the very center of the biggest city of the province. This meant he often had to deal with unpleasant customers, beggars and junks near the store, as well as a steady stream of easily replaceable employees that were often lazy, incompetent, or were exchange students that didn't speak Dutch. All in all, he prided himself on being capable of running his old store, and seemed unhappy having to leave the old place where he felt himself king and ruler. The first thing he said to all employees at the new store was that he would solve the high work absence that was noted to him by his predecessor and regional management, and that he would gladly fire the, mostly 15 to 18-year-old, employees that didn't show up enough for whatever reason, school included. Granted that some of my co-workers were ill quite often, especially during the music festival season. Given that I was sick often and was reprimanded a few times before for being too slow at my job due to my meticulous following of the rules, which I was praised for at the same time, I knew there was gonna be issues. Skip forward 3 months and everyone hated the new manager. He looked down on everyone, had some obvious misogynistic vibes about him, and had threatened firing me multiple times for being sick over 4 separate times since he started. I had a long shift that day and after 3 hours was allowed my 30-minute break. I was hoping to phone my mom to pick me up since I felt ill. I had already felt a fever coming on for nearly an hour, was near crying from my eyes feeling hot, and having a major headache. Having informed my supervisor that I might be having a bad reaction to my hepatitis A/B vaccine formed the day before, I was planning on a vacation to Cuba in a few months. He asked me to try to finish the first 3 hours of my shift so the evening shift workers could take over for me when I was allowed my leave. But since the manager was in today, he didn't have the final say. During the start of the evening shift, I got multiple concerned questions from my co-workers, as by now I was very pale and had bloodshot eyes. As per usual, the shift's workload was discussed, this time however with the store manager present. As my break was technically during the first 25 minutes of the evening shift, I was allowed to remain in the break room to have dinner after everyone left to the storefront, but for some reason the manager stayed as well. Manager, I heard from supervisor you were feeling ill again. You will finish your shift today, or I will personally fire you right now. Me, sir, I feel seriously ill and might have a bad reaction to my vaccine. I feel like I might have a fever and don't feel capable of working another 5 hours. Manager, take some aspirin, have your break, and then get back to work. Me, sir, I already had the maximum dosage 1 hour ago, and can't take any more for at least 4 more hours. I want to go home, and you can't fire me just for being sick. Manager, take your break, eat your food, drink some water, and I best be seeing you up front in 20 minutes. He then left the break room. Not knowing what to do, I lay my head on the cold break room table. I start full on crying hot painful tears. 25 minutes pass by, and not knowing how to handle myself, I decide to fake having fainted as the manager walks back into the break room. Manager, what drama, what an act. That's it, you are done here. I do not react. After 2 minutes of boasting he's seen this all before, the manager wakes me still insisting that I'm faking being ill. Me, sir, I just blacked out and I feel very ill. I would like to call home to be picked up. Manager, fine if you insist, but I'm calling the ER and your parent is going to take you there as soon as they're here to pick you up. A smug grin on his face, obviously trying to pressure me into confessing I'm faking it. Me, whatever you want, sir, as long as I can go home without getting fired for being ill. Later that evening I was diagnosed with severe side effects from the vaccine combined with the then rampant and more severe than normal Mexican flu, resulting in a 39.5 degrees C fever. I stayed home sick for 1 week and did not go to work for 5 weeks. Got all shifts I was planned for during that time paid even though sick leave was normally unpaid, and I got a formal apology from the manager upon my return. Al-Huff, he kept being a pain for all my coworkers. He never dared speak a word to me again unless it was praise for my excellent customer service and perfect-looking ASLs. I heard years later that within his first year the manager was fired by regional management for his conduct in trying to lessen work absence and his negativity towards the mostly female register staff. I must check for any place a person can hide during a fire drill? Okay. Let's see how that works out for you. I replied to an MC story here, and it reminded me of the power of building up a mob of people to get your revenge properly. Background: I worked in a building where I was a fire marshal. No extra money and a small amount of extra work, but someone has to do it. I was also first aider and somehow got landed with arranging the Christmas night out, so maybe the building manager saw me as an easy mark. The only advantage that I had was that during a drill or real event I had absolute power. Anyone not following an evacuation order swiftly was called up for disciplinary action. We had random drills, about 12 per year. My job was to ensure that the building was clear, basically pop my head in each office space, toilets, kitchens, etc., and see that nobody was there, and then take a register outside. 5 minutes tops. Anyone booked into the building that was not registered by me was in trouble. The drills were sprung on me, as well as the building manager had the fire alarm keys, and it made it a more realistic test. The building manager was a dick. He wielded his small amount of power as much as he could and loved to report people for tiny infractions. During one drill he hid in a cupboard and then called me into his office for failing to ensure that the building was clear. Apparently some people may run and hide from a fire instead of leaving the building. I got a wagging finger and told to do better next time, or I would lose the marshal role. My job was pretty safe since nobody actually wanted to take over, and after hearing the story of me getting into trouble they absolutely did not want the job. The building manager changed the fire marshal process instruction to include checking hiding places. This is a site instruction he had no power to do, so I later found out. MC begins. The alarm went off, the first after my failure to check cupboards. Everyone left, crossed the road and stood in the assembly point in, and this is very important, the rain and wind. I searched the top floor very carefully, opening up large cupboards, opening up boxes large enough to hide a person, looking under each desk in case someone was hiding. First floor ditto, UK, so our first floor is US second, and our ground is US first. By now people were cold and wet and unhappy, but building manager refused to let them enter. He knew that it was coming. He was well prepared for the weather. Most people had light clothing on as the car park stood next to the building. They don't bother with coats in the 20 feet trip from car to building. Ground floor checked everywhere, and finally the basement where the boiler lives, and is a general dumping ground for old files and junk. That took ages, but I was thorough. Very thorough. And slow. Thorough slow, not taking the piss slow. I left the building, took the register, and a mass of sodden people headed back into the building. I was massively unpopular until I showed them the PI that said I had to check all spaces that someone could hide. They knew what happened at the last test and directed all the anger at building manager. It was the equivalent of the angry villagers turning up at Castle Frankenstein with torches and pitchforks. People were furious at him. One of the office staff was a union rep and reported him to the site safety officer, who went ballistic at him, telling me to remain in a potentially burning building longer than necessary, and a number of people went home to get dry clothes, and the company had to give them special leave to do so, or else the union would have to get involved. He got sh*T from all sides: workers, union, management, and site safety officer. Most of the time nothing gets done when it is just you complaining, but it really gets done when the correct people are inconvenienced. Boss got mad at me for wasting time organizing. How I realized my job wastes more money than I make. Story: spent a ridiculous amount of time looking for pens, important keys, and work essentials yesterday. In fact, that's every day for the last year. Spent the last 15 minutes of work yesterday organizing our two main, only, drawers that were cramped with things from over the year, and making sure daily essentials were easily accessible. Came into work today, typical day, things got super slow, so I continued my organizing efforts. Found hundreds of dollars in equipment that had been forgotten over the years, but mostly trash I discarded. Took about an hour in between pausing to take care of immediate things. I was almost finished when boss comes over and starts haphazardly organizing things, basically complaining I'm being too thorough, and that we weren't going to be using this precious time to organize. I asked if everything was okay, and got snapped at as boss swept what was left to organize back into the drawer. I then spent the next 20 minutes doing nothing, expecting the theatrics to be followed by what was supposedly so much more important. Minutes. It would have taken me less than 10 to finish organizing while not having any further instruction. I open the drawer, messy once more, and see boss's phone. I closed the drawer. I mean, this is the level of organization we aspire for, right? Who am I to waste time questioning this? Boss eventually gives me a sheet to check inventories with. I haven't been trained on this particular task, I make that clear, but I'm barked at about how simple it is. The sheet doesn't make any sense, so eventually boss comes over and starts trying to storm through it. Oh? Wrong sheet? Man, if only we were organized. Eventually get to the end of and we're missing hundreds of dollars in inventory. Boss had been helping, so I clearly state that I had approached my task carefully, one by one, and in order, with double checks, and I knew I hadn't messed up. Eventually boss asks if I've seen their phone. I say yes. Where? You organized it. Don't you remember? Boss barks at me with the same question. I say they swept it into the drawer with everything else. Boss says they don't remember that, and I say nothing as boss returns to their office. Why didn't I say anything? It was all on camera anyway, in the perfect spot actually. I'm quitting this job shortly, so I didn't feel the need to make it a big deal. Epilogue: a former coworker, a great one, visited and confirmed that things in that drawer were years old. We have a pretty high turnover rate, and it's because employees either don't care, or actually do care, and are penalized for it. Or both. We've lost 2 senior employees in a month, and I'm just sitting here with a secret deadline until I'm out too, though after today, why not at least look for another job? I can already hear myself. Why did I leave my last job? We didn't share the same values on organization. I felt a lot of man-hours were being wasted due to an unorganized environment. I've shot up the totem pole a lot because of turnover, and have accepted increased responsibilities. By my calculations, in just a month we've wasted somewhere around $3,000 due to lack of organization, and that's only from the responsibilities I've inherited. If things are proportional in each department, that number multiplies easily. This means organizational mishaps costs my job more than I even make. P.S. Would it be unethical to ask for a raise knowing full damn well no amount they pay me is making me stay more than a few more months? If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.